This law, by and large, statistically, we'll say, is aimed at destroying more men's lives at the whim of one person dictating that. That's nuts. Welcome to Acts 2 and 42. All right, guys. So today I want to share an article coming from Christian Today, as well as other sources. But there's a surge in divorce applications in England and Wales because there was a recent law passed, or a change in the divorce laws, which allows for no-fault divorces, which basically just means that you can file to divorce your spouse without citing cause, without saying they've done this or they've done that, infidelity or abuse or whatever it may be. So obviously we see a 50% surge in applications. And I think I read that, the theory was because a lot of people were waiting. The floodgates opened and they were waiting for this policy to change so they wouldn't have to prove there was a worthy cause to divorce. So they thought, rather than, pushing my divorce now, I'll wait till this policy is put into place. And it'll be a lot easier for me. So take that in consideration. Take it with a grain of salt, that a lot of them probably would have happened anyway, but just waited. So, but a 50% surge with 3,000 separate applications coming in to end marriages. And they say they're doing it to reduce conflict, right? The government says that they want these changes to reduce conflict between the separating couples and ease stress on them and the children. And while I understand that going through divorce, filing and going through the process and still having to live in the same home can be tumultuous or turbulent or other T words. I don't know, there may be tension. So I get that it's not easy. It's not easy. Depending on the two people involved, it's not easy. But I would just be careful whenever we say we're doing it, to help stress on children or the health and well-being of children, presuming we know what that is. So what data are we presenting at the time to confirm that this would in fact do that? I'm just saying I'm leery whenever we prop up women and children because it's done every day for everything. So the change means that one spouse does not have to find fault with the other as grounds for divorce. Instead of apportioning blame, couples can now state that their marriage has broken down irretrievably. Obviously, I'm not an advocate for divorce if you haven't, picked up on that yet. But this is also Christian news. This is also a Christian YouTube channel. So I don't think Christ was an advocate for divorce as well. And we're not going to get into all the scriptures. But the act removes the possibility for one source to contest the divorce. The act removes the possibility for one spouse to contest a divorce. Now, all signs point to, by and large, women are the largest initiators of divorce. Women and marriages, by and large, by far more than men do. Some estimates that 3 out of 4 or 75% or even 80% of marriages are initiated by women. It doesn't mean they're to blame, but it's just initiated. And then a lot of conversation now, whether you guys know it or not, but there's a lot of conversations now that are being had publicly through YouTube and podcasts and things. And you often hear from women, the citing causes are more to do with them not being content with their life or their partner, but not that there was any, gross misconduct or wrongdoing. They just weren't happy, weren't feeling anymore. He didn't have motivation to, be a captain of industry or live a lifestyle that she wanted to live. He was just an average guy playing video games and wanting to hang out, at the bar or with his friends, just work and come home. Didn't want to take cruises every other month. And I hope that that's not representative of everyone, but it's just, you hear it so often nowadays. If you don't, we do. So a lot of marriages are ended early, and it's not abuse. It's not turmoil. It's so opening up a floodgate when we have that going on. We have, people, societies as a whole are less centered around the need for family. They don't understand as much the need for the nuclear family, the need and the benefit for children to have mother and father in the home, for the offspring of such, families benefiting communities and economies and so forth. It's by and large way better to have mother and father stay married in the home, acknowledging there are very abusive situations, very, very dangerous, very bad situations that we can make exception for, understand. And I'm speaking, obviously, secular terms, not necessarily biblical. The scripture didn't give you that out. And we'll leave that conversation for another day as far as what God would want or what the clauses for divorce according to Bible are, which is debated theologically. I don't think there's any consensus on that. But nonetheless, the measure is for reconciliation and forgiveness and repentance and correction. So by and large, families, communities, the world is better when there's a mother and father raising their children in the home with hopefully good, sound morals. So to open the floodgates to people that are either bored in their relationship or, wanted their husband to be a captain of industry or whatever, it's largely women who largely operate more so. It's not that women can't be logical, but they do operate more so through emotion. And so when your feelings change, now you make decisions that impact everyone because you feel differently at the moment. You feel differently now than you did then. All reasons that you should stop and think through all this, think through all the ramifications. And so, this bill says that, it's to ease the stress on them, on the couple getting divorced. I would argue that if one spouse has no right to contest, then it doesn't necessarily ease stress. So that means that someone who entered in a contract with you, an agreement and a commitment and a vow before God or not, but at least to you and to the state, they can break that contract without cause, without you saying anything, without you having a say in it, without you doing anything about that. And that seems strange to me, but I'll come back to that. But if they do that, and our argument or the cause is, it's better for the health and well-being of the children involved, assuming there are children. All right, so that assumes that divorce itself isn't inherently troublesome for children, which it is, whether it's possible or not. But a child, I can't imagine, especially if they have a normal, decent home. I can't imagine a child saying, yeah, I would rather my parent, my dad be kicked out and never get to live with me again. I'd rather my mom get kicked out or whatever. I'd rather my parents be separated, me be raised, a week with them or a weekend with them and then a week or two without seeing them, and so forth. All the things that go on. This isn't like, let's not kid ourselves. This is in no way beneficial for children. Is staying always beneficial? All right, we can debate that, but let's not just assume that quick, neat divorce benefits kids, because it doesn't. It doesn't. The divorce itself is inherently troubling. Within divorce, it creates stress and turmoil and pain and suffering for children. So let's not neglect that. So rather than rush to inflict or put children through pain and turmoil and suffering through their parents divorcing rapidly, why not consider grounds of reconciliation or methods of reconciliation? Why wouldn't the 2-year period and the spouse being able to contest it? Why aren't those good things if we know that by and large, 2-parent households are better for everyone and they're better for the well-being of the children outside of violence? Okay. So I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying, a lot of times you hear these ideas and they're packaged like real neat and clean, better for women and children, better for children, better on the well-being and health of children. And it's like, well, you haven't really taken into account that there's no, utopian solution. There is no perfect solution, right? And your solution, while you say it's better, still comes with unintended consequences or a downside or things that someone has to suffer and there's bad results from. Let's just acknowledge this before we just say, hey, it's better. They just can just sign their name, go through the process. In 20 weeks, they're free. I don't know. I think if we still had sound morals guiding society, which we don't, but if we did, I think it would be better to take a step back and say, what is better for society? What is better for families? What is better for children? And then if we could identify what that was, which is, families staying together by and large, then we would have laws or processes that encourage people, with different methods to keep families together for the benefit of everyone. Not force, not tyranny, not anything like that. But anyway, we would encourage that. We would study that. We would put policies in place that made it beneficial to work on your marriage, stay together, and so forth. But imagine a world where people going through separation knew how to divorce better. we say it like it's a good thing. And maybe I'm the one that's not considering in a well-rounded view that things aren't necessarily good or bad by themselves. But it's like, in what world is divorce or making divorce easier better? I don't understand that. I guess we have different views on marriage and on divorce and on how that makes people feel and the effect that it has. I don't think that's a good thing. And I speak all of this. I've been speaking, mostly secularly, but scripturally, like I said, we can debate on the words of Jesus and what he said. So there's what they call the, I think like the adultery clause or a divorce clause that Jesus said, speaking in reference to it. And I'm not really going to get into all that, but so we can debate what the clause is, but outside of that clause and what's found within that clause, he said it's not to be. And I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird. So to go back to the contract, right? You entered in a contract for better or for worse till death do us part. Why the heck did you say that? Well, I didn't think it would be like this. Okay, like what? And then we can, there's different polls and different studies that suggest how much is actual real violence, threatening, physical, danger. But if you say it's 20%, well, that 20% of these 3,000 divorces, on average, 75% of them initiated by women and 25% of them might be for divorce. So that's a huge chunk that may just be because I'm bored and not interested in this anymore, because I want to do something else with my life and I should be happy. Well, how about we have a society more sound, more stable, less fleeting and less interested in our own quote, happiness. And I put it in quotes because I'm not talking about you being depressed or you being tortured or anything like that. But I just mean like not going with the wind every time you feel like doing something different with your life and calling that happiness, which I just see a lot of that. I have no idea why these people are getting divorced, but I just see a lot of that in society today is me centered. All your gospels and all your sermon, songs and messages across pulpits now are a lot of me centered. So the church is catering to that as well. And now we see the laws catering to that in the name of helping children, ending marriages, ending families in the name of helping children. It's not what children want. Children want their mom in their life. Children want their dad in their life. They don't want to pick between the two. They don't want to be torn. They don't want all that. And make no mistake that if there was a nasty divorce, and a nasty home situation during the divorce, it's not going to get any better post-divorce. The relationship is still going to have turmoil. These are still two people that can't act decent, so before the divorce or after, I think there's either way there's going to be problems, but I think we're kidding ourselves to claim that it's better for kids. But I do want to get to what used to happen was the couples would have to separate for 2 years, increasing to 5 years if one party did not consent or allocate blame to legally end the marriage. So I don't know. I think we rush into marriage foolishly. I think we enter it neglecting the commitment that we're making, the words that we're saying. In modern times, we have no intention of keeping them. By and large, men have the tendency to keep vows even at their own detriment because of studies show a larger sense of duty in men than with women. I think it's probably because of when you're emotionally fed up or you don't feel good, you allow yourself to have this license. It's like a cheat day. Oh, I deserve this. Women tend to say that more than men. It's like, no, you said you were going to have a diet for 30 days. You don't deserve anything. You said you weren't going to eat those things. What are you talking about? So, but it's like, oh, I've been doing good. I have a cheat day, So I think it goes along with that. So I don't know what's wrong with trying a separation first. What's wrong with actually having to prove someone did something wrong for you to break a legal contract, which, the man is going to be financially destroyed for by and large, statistically, divorce, child support, alimony, all of that destroy men. They only have adverse effects on men. And when you have 80% roughly divorces initiated by women, by and large, for reasons that are not legally good standing or dangerous situations, but because they don't feel like being there anymore, to the man's detriment. These no-fault laws, I don't even want to say favor women. These are death sentences to men that decide to get married. This woman can just walk away when she feels like it. You're less likely to. You're more likely to put up with stuff and to push through and have a sense of duty to family and maybe faith. But the woman's far more likely to feel justified to leave, either emotional reasons, she's not happy, you're not the man she thought you were, whatever the case may be, or just bored. She can do that at your financial devastation. Man, I've watched it happen. And you can look up. I mean, I think there's TED Talks and different videos of women who have talked about what they have witnessed in the family court system and divorce court systems. Just hear it from them. Men are just utterly trashed by society, and especially when it comes to divorce and families. So this law, by and large, statistically, we'll say, is aimed at destroying more men's lives at the whim of one person dictating that. That's nuts. So let's just balance all consequences statistically too. Like, let's statistically weigh what is more likely. And then the effects it'll have across the board. Like, this will have good and bad effects. This will have good and bad effects, and take a snapshot of all of it. And I think you'll see that you're not doing anything good here. You're really not. So lastly, I do want to share this. The last article, by the way, was from The Guardian. I'll put these down. I wanted to get that one little detail, but I'll put them in the description if you want to look at the articles for yourself. So this one's back to the Christian Post article of how to prevent divorce before it happens. And, there's stats here, there's scriptures here. It's safe to say that when it comes to divorce, Christians have let American secular culture take root in their homes. This is true with everything. He's not wrong about divorce, but it's true with everything. After no-fault divorce laws became the norm nationwide beginning in the 1960s, I was close, the divorce rate more than doubled over a 20-year span from 1960s to 1980. While the rate has fallen in the decades since, America still has one of the highest rates in any country of the developed world. Back in the 60s, no-fault divorce laws, 20 years later, doubled, okay? Flash forward to 2022 in England and Wales, the article I just shared, surge in divorce, up 50%. And I don't know if that's in a month. I think it's, within the time span of it being passed to now. Taking into account, okay, because I would immediately say, man, that's a much faster rate. Because at that rate, you're going to double the divorce rate in 2 months, let's say, if that's what it was. If it was a month, you're going to, or 2 years, if that was a year. So doubling in 2 years, let's pick the less of the two, or the larger of the two. You're going to double the divorce rate in 2 years now, versus in the 60s, it took 20 years, from the 60s to the 80s. Even if we account for the floodgate possibility, that's still a high, like a drastic uptick. And I would say it's society's and the church's morals and values. I would say it's society's degenerating, views on family, on just life. And then the church's adoption, like it says, us taking our cue from American secular culture, which I think is across the board, So you'll find today that very few Christians are actual Bible-believing Christians. Many of them claim they are. Man, let me know. I think we did a podcast on the divorce clause, the adultery clause, or whatever. I don't want to get into that now. It's already too long. But let me know if you're interested in hearing more about that. If you haven't watched that, I'll link it. Or if that doesn't do it, let me know. But we have a particular view, and it's like when you read it, even when you open up a modern Bible and it cross-references scriptures, it seems to explain it. And I don't know why there's so much room for interpretation. But yeah, if you actually are interested in hearing more, say so. And there's the podcast where I can do a follow-up going through the scriptures in light of this. Yeah, what is most tragic? Okay, so as social science has found, let me click this. Oh, what do you know? We have research. This is what I love. I really love when I see articles talking about studies and talking about data and stuff, and they have nothing. They either have nothing for you to actually cite the study, like this is better for women and children, but there's no study cited. Or you go to the study, and if you actually look at the study, a lot of times it'll say, yeah, the study really didn't prove this. It seems like it could be this, but it's not, it's not definitive. Okay, then why are we referencing a study like it is? Okay, but kudos to them for actually having a study. So I'm going to link this, and just know that there's a hyperlink here if you want to look at that study. I will later. Social science has found divorce negatively impacts almost everything that matters, including family relationships, religious practice, education, the marketplace, government, and overall health and well-being. What is most tragic is how divorce has affected our nation's children. So again, the last article said that they're doing this for the health and the well-being of children. The divorce itself has a negative impact on children. I'm not for someone being in danger, but I don't care if you're unhappy. You can work on your happiness. You can work on your relationship without hurting your children. Sorry. So I do like this. Down below in this article, I do kind of like this. So, what course of action, should we take? And I think a lot of it is before you get married. And this is talking about having a veteran married couple counsel another couple. And they have to be an example of marriage. Like, I know people that are still married that live in, constant adulterous marriages. I don't care about them. I'm not saying get them just because they haven't gotten divorced. But hopefully they're an example of marriage, and they're able to, talk with you guys, about what you're getting into, what to kind of expect, what to prepare for, what lessons they learned, that they can save you, some headaches. But outside of that, and it can be someone you call on if you do have problems, right? Outside of that, I would say that, vetting spouses, we have to do a better job at vetting our spouses. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if you're a young woman and, obviously if you're getting married, it's because, you're in love with this guy and so forth. And he's amazing, right? I just, can't live without him. But where are the men around you? Where are they in this decision? And if you have none, where's your pastor? Or if you do have men in your life, where's your pastor? Have you consulted with other men about the decision to marry this man? And whether they recommend that, whether they, advise you to take some time. And I'm not saying you have to live your life based on what one person tells you to do, but, the Bible tells you that, there's wisdom found in a multitude of counsel, I believe. So you'll put yourself around people that know more than you know about things, and you'll ask them for advice. So that needs to happen first, because a lot of times, fathers, uncles, brothers can see through men. They know who that guy is. They know what kind of guy that guy is. And I think likewise with women, So are we taking counsel from family, not necessarily arranged marriages, but are we taking counsel from family before we get married? I could say a lot of things about my former pastor that I talked to before getting married, but I will give him one thing, is when we sat down and talked about getting married, he asked us, what is the one thing that would cause you to get divorced? And of course, my wife says before he finishes the sentence, if he cheats on me. And he says, okay, well, you have to be ready to endure that. If you're not ready to tolerate and endure that in your relationship and work on that, hopefully not just put up with someone running out on you. But if you're not, the one thing that would make you want to leave, if you're not ready to accept and endure and forgive, long suffering and patience and tolerance, if you don't have that in you, you shouldn't make the vow. Let's start there. Okay, before we start talking about reasons to divorce, let's start with a different frame of understanding for the commitment we're making to each other, first and foremost, but also to God. So in all this, let me know what your view is. Obviously, comments are filled with people that are upset and disagree, and no one cares more than I do. But I would love to hear, different views, because I think I know things, but I know I don't. So let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are if you have other information or other recommendations. Otherwise, thank you, and stay tuned for more.